Hello and welcome back. Before we get to part 2, Real Talk, please allow us to fulfill our capitalistic duty and plug our Patreon, the Contrarian Supplements.
That's right. For a small fee, you too can help the Contrarians rage on.
We have tiers ranging from just $1 to $10. It all depends on how much content you can handle.
Starting at $1, it's the Travoltis tier, which gets you access to new bonus episodes focusing on a new movie every month, as well as access to the patron chat. Join other patrons in making fun of our opinions.
Moving up to $3 is the Winonis tier, which unlocks access to our pre-recording notes, our video reviews, and our spin-off show, Contrarians After Hours.
That's a more laid-back space where we talk about other things we've been watching, reading, playing, thinking about. Sometimes it's related to the movies being covered in the main feed, but it usually isn't.
If you want to be part of those patrons who help us shape the show by telling us which movies to tackle, that's when you sign up for the $5 tier, the Embries, and the $10, the Gads.
Finally, all supplement subscribers, regardless of the tier, get access to our archive of special patron projects. Head over to patreon.com/contrarianprime now to join.
Be sure to listen through the end of the episode to find out what's coming up to the Contrarian Supplements this month. Now, it's time for some Real Talk.
All of this is academic. You were made as well as we could make you.
But not to last.
The light that burns twice as bright burns half as long. And you have burned so very, very brightly, Roy. Look at you. You're the prodigal son. You're quite a prize.
Julio, I think I've mentioned this before, but my most personal connection to this movie is that my sister wrote, I don't know if it was like her final term paper, but some big college paper, like thesis she had to write for her major, she wrote about Bladerunner and like the commentary, and like it was some big thing about dystopian America and that, but she tied it all into it.
I did not know this.
Yeah, so my sister's a big fan of this movie, and I always think of that when I hear about this movie. I was news editorial, so a lot of my writing was way more short form, but I do remember for maybe an ethics class. There was some class I had in my last year, one of my last semesters, that had to be like 8 or 10 pages, and it was about the noble lie. And I just remember it was shortly after The Dark Knight came out, because I ended it with Batman's line from that sometimes the truth isn't good enough. So movies dictate our lives, and we center them around film. So that's the personal anecdote to open this up. Because we have guests on this episode, I'm going to spare them me droning on about professional wrestling. So be sure to tune into our YouTube video on this movie, so I can explain.
You're depriving us. Maybe I have thoughts. Who is the wrestler in Blade Runner? Is it Roy?
I guess the teaser I'll say is there in the mid 80s, there was a tag team called the Bladerunners, obviously derivative of this movie, and both of the members in that tag team went on to become fairly famous professional wrestlers. So that's the teaser there. But Julio, we have some guests here. This is a big one. This is I think it's proper that we have a full panel to discuss this, because we were obviously speaking of it a bit sarcastically in the first half, and had our little quips about this being a movie that the film buffs of the world will be very proud to tell you they like. But in 2025, for the age range that's being occupied by the 4 people on this panel today, this is a movie that you will find people judge you based on your opinion of it. And it's one that always spawns discussion. And it's also just very funny because we're all too young to remember that it didn't really do shit when it came out. But now it's regarded as this fucking piece of history, a piece of lore as it pertains
people
to.
Take it really personal.
Yeah.
I think people do with a lot of Ridley Scott films, especially at the height of his powers. Maybe less so today. But even today, some people get real split on like, oh, you don't love this? How could you? He's like one of the last great directors.
Prometheus's masterpiece.
I mean, it is,
Yeah,
but yes.
I was about to say, no idea what you're talking about. Julio and I have never gotten into discussions, passionate ones, both on and off air, about the merit of Gladiator. So,
What about Gladiator 2 though?
Alex hasn't seen it, so
life's too short, you know.
But there's CGI monkeys in it.
Yeah, I heard enough to, I guess, to satisfy. All right. So, Julio, you have seen this in the theater. Ryan and Rachel, y'all saw 2049 in IMAX. 2049 is a movie that I own, is in my collection, but because, and I'm sure you're going to be able to guess this, because it's 3 hours long, I haven't gotten around to seeing it. But I will say the viewing today of this has motivated me to sometime in the next week sit down and finally watch that, because another wrestling tie-in, Dave Bautista's in that movie. But
If you fail that goal, what do you owe us?
Yeah, what do you owe us? What pound of flesh are you going to cut off?
a crisp sandwich
Is it a pound
what
of
I owe
fairy
you.
bread that you have to eat?
Yeah.
Jesus. Make like a mukbang video. That's how I take off. Yeah. So, Julio, where do I want to start with you? So, film school, you know, we always thought Texas Chainsaw Massacre is what I always think of. A movie that you remember hearing about a lot in film school and being like, okay. Was this a movie that was brought up back in your days of studying?
Oh yeah. This is as far as production design, you know, they will always bring it up. It's funny because just last night, a little peek behind the scenes. Last night, Alex and I did a recording for Patreon about the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, and that was another instance where we had to bring up the fact that, you know, that's just the kind of thing that gets brought up in film studies, right? Like, because of German expressionism. And in this case, it's the same thing. You bring up Blade Runner at the very least because of the production design and how it looks, and, you know, how amazing it was they were doing this thing in the 80s and so on. So yeah, it is that touch point. It is a touchstone when you're talking about movies and learning about movies.
Much like Citizen Kane, some might say.
Yes. The sci-fi Citizen Kane that's been coined apparently a long time ago, and we just now found out. I'll tell you this though, my first Blade Runner experience had nothing to do with film school. It was when I was still a child, and it's because the late news show, so not a talk show, like the news, right? Like on network TV. I don't even know how it works today. We have like actual news shows, right? Like whatever started like at 10 p.m. We ran from 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. in Peru. So I should have been in bed by then, but I'm sure, you know, I was trying to stay up. Their theme song was the end credits theme from Vangelis that, you know, plays in the movie. The dun 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 dun. When I listen to that, even though now I know it's Blade Runner, I always think, oh yeah, that's the late news show in Peru. They don't do it anymore. But that was when I was a kid, you know, a long time ago. So before I even watched Blade Runner, I had the Blade Runner music, the end credits music in my head as something iconic. And you can imagine my reaction when the first time I watched Blade Runner and then the end credits start, and I'm like, the fucking news? What? Nobody cares what music Peru's using, so they could just take music from major motion pictures and nobody cared. But anyway, that was my very first Blade Runner experience. And then, of course, you know, yeah, I watched it at least once while in film school, and then I've seen it several times since, different cuts. When I was younger, it was more of a struggle to watch it and really get why people loved it so much. And I can say that the more I watched it, the more I've appreciated what it offers. Even in this last rewatch that I just did for this recording, I walked away with more appreciation for it. So jumping ahead to the end, like, I'm actually pretty positive on it. I am very curious about Ryan and Rachel, because the hints that have been thrown our way ever since that Star Trek recording, I think the prompt was, next time we're going to do a movie that you guys are not crazy about. And I think that that's how we ended up with Blade Runner. Am I right? Is this a movie that you guys have a contentious relationship with?
Look, is Blade Runner not in my, you know, top spot of sci-fi films? Yeah, it's not up there. There's so many others. Soldier is higher up for me in the Blade Runner trilogy of films. I'm sincere about that. Yeah, I don't know. Blade Runner is just one of those ones where it's like everyone loves this movie, and I'm always been just like a bit perplexed. Not perplexed per se, but more like oh, okay, it's fine. I can respect it. I can admire the way that it's definitely shaped culture, pop culture, and science fiction. A lot of cyberpunk aesthetics come from this movie, and there's a lot of stuff that it's influenced that I'm a fan of. But it's also how I feel about Ridley Scott in a lot of ways. Like, there's only a few Ridley Scott films that I truly love, and for the most part, he's a filmmaker that I just admire. That I just go, okay, you do you. Or sometimes I just outright don't like, but like for the most part, it's like him and this film are in tandem with one another for me, in which I can look at it and go, yeah, there's a lot of artistry put here, but also there's a lot of muddled things in amongst that artistry that kind of undercuts it. And I just can't reconcile the fact there's a lot of dissonance for me when it comes to Blade Runner, which also just gets amplified because there's just so many cuts of the film trying to fix it. Like, it itself knows that there's a dissonance there and it's always trying to alter it. And it just makes it harder and harder for me over the years when I revisit it.
For me, it's a weird one because I respect and appreciate the film, but that doesn't lead to enjoyment, really. I'm always stuck at the like, oh, yeah. Because I feel like the satisfaction that you get from Blade Runner is not while you are watching it. It is when you are thinking about it. And for me, that shifts the responsibility onto the audience rather than onto the film. Because when you start to examine the film for what it does present, you find a lot of gaps. And it's just like, but if you're so interested in this, why are you ignoring that? If the film itself was for this purpose to explore what is humanity, why is it that that main speech is improvised by the actor?
I have a follow-up. I have a question and a comment. I do have a follow-up question specifically for Rachel, but Julio, let's go ahead and go through the quotes that you have, so we don't have to worry about circling back to that. You know, we'll pull a team and circle back to the opening credits 20 minutes in. So, all
right. Now that the cold open is done, let's start with these are rotten quotes.
Joe Carnahan, 2010-18, better movie than Blade Runner. I'm saying it now. So
wow.
Death threats coming in.
The Citizen Kane of action movies, yes. All right, let's start with Robert Rotten from Laramie Movie Scope, who says, a visually stunning but emotionally empty sci-fi classic. David Nussair from Real Film Reviews says, a hopelessly overrated piece of work.
Wow, that was mean. I was about to say the previous one about like empty, emotionally empty. I don't necessarily have a problem with that because a movie can just look awesome and have some cool shit in it and not have much to say. But yeah, that second one, hopeless. Goddamn, pal.
Overrated. I mean, when a movie is as celebrated as Blade Runner, that's going to come up as an accusation, right? Like if you're celebrated, somebody's going to think that you're overrated. Next, Peter Stack from San Francisco Examiner says, a disjointed, implausible sci-film, so trapped in photographic maneuvers that it's lifeless.
I do love implausible when it comes to science fiction movies.
I'm looking for realism in my sci-fi movies, okay, at all times. That's, if this film dares to say that 2019 was like this, how dare it? Because I'm in 2025 now, and I can tell you it was factually wrong. So very implausible indeed. I'm smart.
I possibly would prefer the future that was portrayed in this movie, because at least as awful as everything is right now, we'd have flying cars, which would be cool.
What about landline video calls?
I mean,
we have video calls. The screens are bigger.
How would you like it, though, if you lived in a world where people don't even know what a snake is anymore?
Yeah, that's pretty intense.
Yeah, but I mean, they're still
to be fair,
more
20 years from now, we're going to live
Australia.
Jesus. 20 years from now, we're going to live in a world where people don't know what a screenwriter is. So, we're doing all right.
I have one more quote from Ginger Varney from LA Weekly. Who says, one of the more imaginative and less realized movies of this or any year. Scott directs as if he were a doctor about to deliver some giant conception, and never once notices that this mountain of a movie is giving birth to...
That was a choice.
Deliver a
That was
giant,
a choice of an analogy.
Wait.
giant conception.
Wait for the ending.
Yeah.
And never once notices that this mountain of a movie is giving birth to little more than a mouse.
What? Wait, what?
I don't know. Ginger just stuck with that analogy and drove it all the way to the
Ginger.
end.
She didn't stick with one. There's like 3 different things happening in that one.
Well, that's a homage to the different cuts of the film.
Oh.
No, they're distinct. They get delivered one at a time.
Okay,
Yikes.
you got me there.
Fucking yikes.
Okay, no, in all fairness, Alex, I'll counter you. Delivery of a big conception, that's a fucking awesome quote. Like, that's like some metal shit. That's something like the chutzpah to write that and then continue slamming Ridley Scott and Bladerunner. You gotta be a fucking warrior for that.
Especially, yeah, again, Ridley Scott, a guy who very openly cares very much about what other people think about his movies.
It was quit when I come in here, Brian. I'm twice as quit now.
So, okay, first thing, I have a bit of contention with the fact that this movie was entered into the National Film Registry 10 years before Alien, as I think Alien is a superior film to this. However, that is not my starting point. I did want to start with Rachel here because she is the only female on the panel here today. It's a rare thing. We let the women in.
You had a question in the comments.
Yeah. It's a rare thing, Julio. We let the women in, you know? So they just complicate everything. But no, Rachel, we did talk about in the first half, obviously the discomfort that comes along with the scene of Deckard more or less just coercing is the word that Ryan used. But, you know, aggressively approaching would be a nice way of putting it. The Rachel character.
We need a nice way to put it.
Yeah, if we want to copy the retirement euphemistic language.
But it is something that makes me curious.
He just wanted to give her a big hug.
Yeah, it is something that makes me curious, and I think it would be an interesting place to start here because I want your opinion on it because this movie is a bit more complicated than just being like, well, you know, things used to be different. It really seems like Deckard's like a piece of shit. And that's something that Julio, you were commenting on. I didn't know how serious you were in Contrarian's Corner, but Rachel, I guess, what do you take away from that? The Deckard character, that the way he treats Rachel, do you think it adds or takes away from the movie, et cetera, et cetera?
I think it tracks for who we see Deckard to be. Because he doesn't seem to want to be a part of the world. He seems annoyed at his own existence, but he also feels entitled to anything that he wants. He wants to eat his noodles. He wants to kiss Rachel. So he gets what he wants. And he will force whatever he wants onto other people. Because he's not used to having to treat others as human beings. And he doesn't know how to engage with people on a human level.
And I think the decades that this movie is kind of sandwiched in had really bad history of characters doing things like this, but the movie is still trying to portray them as the hero. You know what I mean? So, I mean,
it's like, it's not wrong. It's not wrong.
Take your pick of what James Bond movie you want, where he just like is womanizing and shit. But yeah,
I'm curious, Rachel. Though, with that being said, though, we acknowledge that the character is a fucked up guy and he's bad with these type of dynamics. But even by the end of the film, this is supposed to be treated like this is the human quality within him.
Treat it the way that it actually feels.
Yeah, this is supposed to be the thing that makes him a good person, is this relationship he has with Rachel. This is supposed to be his now human defining traits.
It highlights his lack of humanity. It doesn't bring it to the surface to me.
And when you play around in sci-fi particularly, when you play around with allegorical and metaphorical bigotries, it can be very dicey. Julio, I know you're a big fan of comic books. There's always the thing about the X-Men, them being an allegory for whatever it is, but there's always the disconnect because like the difference between an X-Men and a black person, say, is a black person isn't like inherently born with the ability to explode a hospital with their mind, but an X-Men can. And so it's like you can't always line those things up.
A literal stretch that cannot be removed with some of the mutants.
And this film also has this underlying awkward thing of like his big turnaround is, he's an all right guy in the end because although he used to hunt down her people, he's now an all right guy because he fell in love with one. Look,
she doesn't really see them as her people.
Yeah, it's like his thing is like this awkward, again, that kind of like metaphorical, allegorical bigotry thing of like he is bigoted in this movie against replicants. He doesn't see them as people. But then
this one's okay.
But this one's okay. It's okay. I have a girlfriend now who's a replicant. So it's fine. And I'm not joking. Like that is a part of like the awkwardness of when you are in this genre and you play around with this type of storytelling device. It can have that awkwardness where it's like, oh, and then as we're talking with us all here and he's super like macho aggressive, and this is still supposed to be treated as this is the good side of this character.
Is that meant to be romantic?
Yeah, and it doesn't help neither actor have chemistry with one another. Like at the very minimum, at least have chemistry. But these two, you can clearly tell they hate each other in real life, and it comes onto the screen.
That upside down kiss almost makes me gag with how just. Ugh.
I would argue. Yeah, I would. That's something I would say. Well, I might be giving Sean Young too much credit as an actor to say she's a robot processing emotions for the first time. But
I have a good Sean Young story.
No, but she's grown up.
Did you hook up with her, Julio?
She asked me to kiss her.
Aw.
She's grown up having emotions. It wasn't a like development later in life because she has the memories. She's essentially born with emotions.
It should be the opposite way around. Yeah, it should be like she starts with emotions and then becomes devoid of them as she's been challenged that she's not real.
But now she's realizing everything she's thought is a lie. So she's, again, Sam Worthington.
Right. She's at a very vulnerable point in her existence. But before we get to Sean Young, I think that there's two separate things, right? Like, because one is, before we even get to the ending of the movie, I think that we can still, regardless of what Ridley Scott thought when he was making the movie, right? We can still have a good movie, a good Blade Runner movie where Deckard is a piece of shit, right? Like, because we all agree, like we're all reading him the same way.
Definitely.
He's absolutely.
Yeah,
it's a part of the genre of the film noir.
Even
the detective
exactly.
He's usually a pretty shitty guy.
Yeah. Now the climax, I can buy it in the sense that and this comes mostly from Rutger Hauer. I think that I really like the performance. That was the thing that really hit me this time. Like, I've always been a little mystified by how much people love the Roy Batty character, and this is the one time. I mean, this might be my 10th time watching the movie. This is the first time that I've been like, oh, I get it. And
he's the only performance in the movie that has like true raw human emotion.
I agree. I don't know why it didn't hit me before.
Yeah, he's more human than most of the humans.
I think it was that moment when he finally has to come to terms with the fact that there's no fixing it, right? Like Tyrell is just shutting down every single suggestion. He tells him, this is it.
Like, we've tried that.
Yeah. And he has that moment where like his face just falls and he's like, well, this is it. And I felt that more than I felt any other emotional beat in the movie. And I was like, I get it. And so when you use that character to bring about this sort of epiphany on Harrison Ford, right? Like, that's when I think he sees Roy Batty as more than what he's been thinking of.
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe.
That's the neat play around with this genre too, because he's the villain of this movie, portrayed to be. Roy Batty is supposed to be this insane, murderous, freedom-fighting robot who's run amok, right? And usually in these stories, like, bringing it to Star Trek, say, Captain Kirk would give the big speech to this villainous character and make him have an epiphany. But in this film, it's the opposite way around. he gives the big speech, the big, great emotional speech, and it changes and gives an epiphany to our protagonist. Like, that's also a part of like what's so great about Rutger Hauer is he comes across as villainous at first, but the more you realize what he is about and the more you realize what his performance is doing, he's the most sympathetic character in the movie, even though he agrees he does morally questionable things, but who doesn't in this movie? Everyone does morally questionable things in
Even
this.
Rachel.
Even
Rachel's
Rachel.
a murderer.
Yeah. It was self-defensive thing, but even then it's like she, there's so much going on here. But yeah, I'll say this. I don't know if this factors in for you, Julio, on this rewatch or for anyone here, but like I think a part of my attachment to the Roy Batty performance on this watch is this is my first time rewatching Blade Runner since Rutger Hauer has passed away.
Oh.
And I just was watching it thinking, man, what an actor. What an actor. What a unique screen presence. There's no one else like Rutger Hauer, and I can't imagine what this film would have been without him.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
I don't know if it would have become a cult classic without him.
And, when he did pass away, I did have a very emotional reaction there because I've enjoyed his work many times over. And, this is the first time I've rewatched this film, which is, arguably the film of his that most people would know for. And it's just one of those things of like, damn, he really was just like a once in a lifetime talent. And he is, without a doubt, the person who shines brightest in this film.
Yeah, he steals the movie. And I think that benefits the Deckard character. I mean, when you're talking about at the end, right? Like how are we supposed to reconcile this somewhat happy ending? He gets the girl and they're going on the run. I mean, yes, they're scared, but they survived. And I think that
they're together.
Yeah, but they have that moment. I mean, I can kind of buy that Deckard might be a slightly better person by the end of the movie because he has that moment with Rutger Hauer. And Ford, we can joke about how like uninterested he seems through the movie. And we should talk about his performance in a minute, but I think that's a good moment, like his reaction to Roy's final moments. And I believe that he comes out of it a different man. And so I'm okay with giving them that much grace, to.
Oh, I agree. I totally agree.
Send them
with
off
you.
into like the unknown of. At the time, we wouldn't expect it to be a sequel, but just whatever happens to them, I'm glad that they're still alive at the end of the movie.
I think it's so fascinating that with Blade Runner, in terms of being able to discuss it, it's such an important film with so many angles to come at, whether it's the film itself or the behind the scenes or the messages or the fact it's an adaptation or the careers of these actors and so on. But I think 9 times out of 10, what we've done here is what most people do, which is you talk about that end. You talk about the Roy Batty speech. Because for my opinion, it's the moment of the film where they stop being moody, aesthetic-based, artsy-fartsy, riff on film noir stuff, and actually properly engage with the core messages and themes of the film itself. We actually have characters being challenged, characters giving their opinions and expressing them, and us, the audience, being confronted with how we may have had preconceived notions of what this film is, of like, oh, it's a detective movie where he has to hunt down the bad guys, to realizing, oh no, they were the good people, they were people rather than machines. And it's not just that Rutger Hauer gives a good performance or that those lines are memorable lines. It's, to me, it's the moment of the film where it actually interrogates itself, while the rest of the time it's circling the drain of doing that and maybe asking little questions of like, have you checked yourself with the test? Like, that's just a question, but this is no longer just questioning. This is actually grabbing you by the shoulders and shaking you and saying, this is the film's opinion. What do you think of that?
Yeah, it makes a plea that they are, if you haven't picked it up by then, it's, I think, inescapable at the end that, this is a life that's being extinguished. And if somehow you've managed to avoid reckoning with the killings that Harrison Ford, that Deckard has executed during the movie, this is where it should hit you. It's pretty powerful. I mean, yeah, it is a talking point of Blade Runner, that, and I think the production design. I do want to go back to the Sean Young thing because I I was not kidding. I do have a Sean Young story, and it's relevant to that very uncomfortable scene. And I really want to get Rachel's take on it, because that's why you're here, Rachel, to make us sound better.
Yeah, I'm only here as a woman, not a person.
No.
Rachel, you're here for tokenistic representation.
Yes.
Dude, we're getting woke points now because we got a girl on here.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, and it's great that you're calling a 32-year-old female a girl.
A girl.
The look on Rachel's face when you said,
We're boys.
Girl.
It's okay.
oh, I believe that they're little boys. I believe that.
Well, Julio's an
That
old
I
boy,
believe.
but you know.
I'm an old boy. Yeah.
He's much
Yeah.
like
You're
Korean
Spike Lee's
cinema because he's an old boy.
Yeah,
Damn it, Ryan.
I didn't know if I could play. I remember lessons. I don't know if it's me or Terrell's niece.
Anyway, Sean Young showed up at this panel. We didn't know. We were at the Austin Film Festival. There was a screening of Blade Runner, and then there was screenwriters discussing it, and it was, a packed house, and it came up the thing, this sequence, which is, I don't know how many people were interrogating it back in the 80s, but of course this was 2010, 2011 probably, and so of course it comes up if you watch a movie with modern lenses. It's like, this is really fucked up. And then they bring Sean, like she was waiting in the wings. It was like Jerry Springer or something. Like, oh, we have Sean Young here. And she comes in and she sits
Here she is.
Yeah, with the rest of the panel. And then she addresses it. And I mean, I'm just going to tell you literally what she said. And it's not that it blew my mind, but I was just like, all right, I guess that's a read on it, right? So she said that when she was playing it, the way that she justified, or the way that she played it was, sometimes in a relationship, you need the other person to assure you that it's okay to be intimate and to basically, he didn't say strong arm you, but basically make that push because they know that you are too scared to do it, but they know it's for your benefit to do it. And this is, if it was,
look, I'm not going to disagree with her. I think her performance is not the problem. It is still the framing of the film,
agree.
And the
Harrison
context.
and Harrison Ford's performance is so overtly aggressive. Like, again, what she's talking about is 100% nailing what these film noirs that this film is obviously a true taking on. That's what they did, like especially with femme fatale type characters. Like, I totally buy her read on that. But the film, the way it plays out, and even then, we're saying like for its time, decades, it was still weird then too. Like the way it says, you can compare this to other films and how this is also a problem. But also, like, this is a film that is like harkening back to certain types of relationship dynamics in other movies, and even then, it's still like dialed up to 11 in terms of just like how like gross and uncomfortable it is.
I think the problem is that there's no follow-up.
And there's a difference between, hey, tell me that you want this, and tell me that you want this.
Also, we don't know what she ever wants. She's just an object to be examined at all times. We're supposed to think, well, replicants are human and all of that, and she's even more human, and she has a humanity challenged, but like what we're doing right now is talking more about Rachel than the film does.
Yeah.
I mean, she
the
is
film
definitely...
doesn't even, like you said, follow up on this. The next time is he just comes in and kisses her and is like, you leave with me now. I'm your protector. I'm your partner. It's like, okay.
You've gone from being property of Tyrell, your father, to property of me.
I think my takeaway after she said that was, man, that sounds really interesting. And that sounds like something I would really appreciate seeing explored in a movie, in a play, in fiction, what have you. Because it is something that definitely happens in real life, right? Not the way that it happens in this movie. I think that that's the problem. So like you were saying, it's an execution problem.
No, you would call it abuse if it happened like this.
Right. But I can see how there was maybe the seed of trying to portray that and definitely not giving it the time or the care that needed to be there for it to really land. And instead, what happens is it rattles you because it just feels violent and there's no, I don't know if it's chemistry, Ryan. I think that it's just that there's no there's no
No,
build
it's
up.
anti-chemistry. Yeah, that too, but they clearly don't like each other. I'm pretty sure, like, if you read the behind the scenes of this movie, like, her and Harrison Ford were, like, blocking horns at all points. Like, most trivia I've ever read about her as an actress is dramas during the production of a movie. Whether it's her fault or not, I'm not weighing in on that. It's always just, like, something, and I think you can see it on the screen that they don't like each other. Well, in comparison to him and Carrie Fisher, in, you know, Star Wars, they liked each other. They were really going out in real life too, and you can see that on the screen. It's true.
Well,
It's true.
Han Solo is
It's true.
also-
No, it's true both ways. You can see the real life affection for one another on screen, and you can see the real life hatred for one another on screen too. And that's where I come down with this as well. And it just adds another layer to it, because this film, like you said, it doesn't focus on this, and yet we end on this being like the thing of the movie, is like their relationship and how he must protect her now, and how they must run off. And Gaff has that line that's supposed to be uplifting but also threatening, and it's like, but I don't care about these two. I don't care about them as a couple. Like,
I care about them more as a couple watching it after watching the sequel.
yeah, and look,
No spoilers,
I've had many
because Alex hasn't watched it yet.
Tread lightly.
That was all I was gonna say.
It's over 5 years old, so I appreciate the consideration.
mhm. Look, I've had many problems with this. Look, when I got introduced to Blade Runner, I had to study it in high school, and so I also have that thing that I'm sure we've all had with a piece of art, where you have a difficult time appreciating it because you had to dissect it first rather than enjoy it as its own piece of entertainment and film. Like, I had a teacher whose mantra was, "This is a perfect film," which I would retort, "Why, if it's so perfect, why does it need so many cuts to fix it?" You know, and there are people who claim that, it's like, this is a perfect movie. It's like, well, no, it's perfect in the fact that it's imperfect. Like, I like Blade Runner's imperfections. I like these things, even though I'm complaining about them, I find them interesting. And it's like, there's a better version of this movie in here. And you can tell that they think that too, hence they've cut it apart so many times.
I mean, that is just the Ridley Scott MO, though. So that is not, I think that's just Blade Runner. That's just what he does, right? He seems to be one of those filmmakers that's not satisfied with, you know, he just keeps going back and reworking. This one in particular, yeah, it has the voiceover and the drama with the exposition.
It continues to elude him.
Yeah, but I guess as we transition into like the big differences, I am maybe controversially, I am maybe not necessarily pro voiceover in Blade Runner, but I'm definitely not anti voiceover in Blade Runner. And I think it's because after hearing people talk so much trash about the voiceover over the years, when I finally watched the version that had the voiceover, I was like, oh, you know.
Okay, and I'm sorry if I missed this along the way. Who does the voiceover?
Harrison
Ford.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because he's a detective.
And he deliberately did it so trash because he didn't want them to use it.
That's true. He
so it's
delivered
trying
so
to be just like
poorly,
straight
thinking,
noir of like
it's supposed to be straight noir. He did his voiceovers on purposely bad, hoping and expecting that they wouldn't use them, and then they used them.
But they kind of work in a way. I mean, just because it fits the performance.
No.
His performance is just
Hey,
so...
you know what, Julio? To counter yourself, I want you in editing to play the monologue he gives after the Tears in the Rain speech, please. Put that here now.
Okay.
And then continue with what you're saying. And let the audience decide.
I don't know why he saved my life. Maybe in those last moments he loved life more than he ever had before. Not just his life. Anybody's life. My life. All he'd wanted were the same answers the rest of us want. Where do I come from? Where am I going? How long have I got? All I could do was sit there and watch him die.
But see, that's unfair because I'm not listening to it. I haven't listened to the voiceover in a while. And honestly, I can't like speak to the actual words.
You're coming to bat for it.
No,
It's
I'm
crazy.
speaking of the tone. It's specifically because people say like, oh, it just sounds like, you know, he's reading it with a gun put on his head. And I'm like, I mean, But
does.
But the movie, like the attitude of his character in the movie is similar to that. So I was like, that's kind of a piece, with the tropes of the genre and the performance that he's given. I mean, I don't think that the
Why are you trying
voiceover.
to cope with this, Julio?
His performance isn't very good in this movie, or do you disagree with that? Is that like, I was genuine in my contrarian's corner. I think that he is dialed way too low, and when he does do that silly voice moment there,
It's very weird.
It's so bizarre because it's like, why?
One of your favorite parts of the movie.
It is one of my favorite parts of the movie because it's like he's doing it's the only time I feel he demonstrates and it's a failure, but demonstrates that Deckard has methods to his investigation style, because he doesn't really have any clever detective things in this. Like, you're just watching him mumble and bumble about from place to place.
I'm watching him rewatch the Leon interview, and then it leads directly into the next scene.
But like,
It's just like the line about his mother. Let's recap that, and then we're gonna have a conversation with Rachel about her mother.
But the bit where he plays up a character to try and sneak in and garner information, although it's a failure, like it doesn't work for him and it's not a very good scene. Yeah, I do like it because it's the one time in the movie Deckard demonstrates any grander investigation skills.
I agree.
He never
but
does
I
anything
think,
like that.
I think that's more of a screenplay issue than a performance issue. And I mean, it could be. That's the thing. I'm not
I
like.
enjoyed the snake skin scale investigation part as a demonstration of his skills.
Which part of that?
Like his process, and he's not using any police channels. He's
Using the black market.
yeah,
because
he knows that it's probably from there.
But as a detective story, I think that the sleuthing, the detective part is kind of not great. And so I don't know if he's just not a good detective, or is it just that he's a detective that's starring in a badly written detective story.
They keep on telling us that he's the best, and that makes it weird.
Yeah,
it does make it weirder.
But the thing with the performance,
he's also a drunk, and that's a true thing. Like, in his room, you see all of these empty bottles, and he slurs his words. And so, how much of this is he used to be the best and now is past his prime?
Right.
But I just don't know,
and we don't know why he can't hack it anymore.
Well, you brought up the idea, the fact that he seems kind of horrified after he kills Zora, and that could be it. I mean, there's like wear and tear with his profession.
But we need some build up to that moment to make it make more sense for him as a character specifically.
It just
and
happens.
Harrison Ford's performance, like, I just don't. Again, I like Harrison Ford. I think he can be a very good actor, but I think he can also be a very bad actor. And I don't think he's giving the performance needed for this role. I think he's just too, bored. He is bored, and I am bored watching him. And all of this on paper, Julio, maybe I can agree with you on that, but I look at the screen, and I just see Harrison Ford just, all right, Rachel, I need you to come with me now.
But
that sounds like a Mr. Plinkett impression, right?
Oh, God. Deckard's review of The Phantom Menace. But, this is one of those contentious things of, he's not a good investigator, but we're watching a movie where he investigates.
Yeah, but I think that's kind of like
how he's a bad investigator. No, it's not about how he's a bad investigator.
But I think that's the fascinating part about it, right? Like, I think that is the advantage, I guess, that Harrison Ford gets from being Harrison Ford. I think that if you had somebody that had a little less of a movie star charisma, then this performance would be just insufferable. But because he's still Harrison Ford,
he has that charisma in this movie.
Benefit to Blade Runner.
Yeah. I think
it's a bad performance.
No, I think that he's making some very
light him up. Light him up.
I think he's making some very specific choices that other actors wouldn't be able to get away with, and he is.
Wait, bad ones.
Well, I agree. No, I actually agree with Julio. I agree with Julio in this moment though, because Harrison Ford, and I know you're going to be really upset with me, Julio, because I'm agreeing with you, but I'm going to backhand you with this. He, as a movie star, gets away with that though. He goes like, "I'm Han Solo, I'm Indiana Jones, and so I can just sleep my way through movies." And I'm not saying. And here's the thing. I think, and I've heard Harrison Ford talk about this movie, he is trying. He believes this is good. He's putting in effort. I'm not denying that. I really want to emphasize, I don't think Harrison Ford is on purposely being like a hack phoning this in like he does with so many other movies in his career. But I think he needs a director with more capabilities than Ridley did at this period of time. Because also when you read the behind the scenes of this, like with any Ridley movie, he had a lot of problems to deal with when doing this movie. So I don't think Ridley in this one got Harrison Ford at the right wavelength for the level of like disaffected that Deckard is supposed to be, because like I am annoyed that he is an actor that has movie star charisma. He is a movie star, but that also means he's afforded to be able to not do good performances sometimes, or give these ones, and still we can still chat here and go like, oh, but the merits of this. But like, if he was just some actor that you didn't know, I doubt that you'd be giving him this much grace.
But that's the thing, right? That's why not everybody can be a movie star. That's what I'm saying. Like
I think that's
if he was the actor from Han's
But we're not talking about a
Solo from the Solo movie.
Yeah, but we're not talking about a blockbuster movie where that can be an excuse. We're talking about a movie that's considered to be one of the greatest artistic achievements of cinema.
Right, but what I'm saying is that
and we're defending like, oh, he can give a bad performance because he's a movie star, bro. It's like,
I'm not saying he's giving a bad performance. I'm saying that he can give you a toned down performance where he can like slur his way through the scenes and look disinterested, and it's still Harrison Ford, so you're still kind of like paying attention. So
okay, so you're saying that this is not a bad performance.
No,
how would you describe the quality of Harrison Ford's performance in Blade Runner?
Well, I don't get it. What do they risk coming back to Earth for? That's unusual. Why? What do they want out of the Tyrell Corporation?
Alex, I was going to ask you how you felt, so let's do that first.
I was going to jump in because I feel like I'm somewhere of a middle ground between the two sides of this. I think it's admirable that Harrison Ford is a man who had such just understanding of his profession that he could command like attention and just, for lack of a better term, sleepwalk through scenes and it be impressive. And a huge thing Julio and I talk about on this podcast, and it's become way more part of our real talk segments in recent years, is like a unique appearance or a unique approach to acting. And I mean, let's be honest, all white people look the same. And Harrison Ford is a guy that is not... He's not Brad Pitt or someone like that. He's not Leo. Like you say, like, okay, that dude, people don't look like that. Harrison Ford's kind of
he looks like a guy.
You see, Harrison Ford at his very core was a carpenter who didn't desire to be an actor and then somehow found his way into being a megastar. And still to his core, he likes being a carpenter above all else.
Yes, but I will say that even if he didn't want it, he possesses a skill or just an innate trait that
I don't disagree.
Somebody else saw something in him. It's not what he wanted. It's not an internal drive, and that's a part of what makes him uniquely suited to the role of Deckard.
And it makes him as an actor usually pretty good because he often plays affable guys.
Yes, and I think that's why he is the perfect Han Solo, because I think he's a bit of a dick in real life, and that's kind of the whole thing with Han Solo, right? In the original iteration was that he's a badass, but a bit of a prick as well. And thinking back to not too long ago, Julio, we did The Fugitive, which in that movie as well, he's a bit of an asshole, and that's kind of the thing of the whole thing of why it's hard for him to claim his sympathy and innocence, because people are like, well, he's a little bit of a dick. But anyway, point being here, I don't think he's particularly great, but I think he certainly is magnetic. And whether that's a good or a bad thing, I don't know, because this is a movie that I'm not one of the people that'll tell you like it's overrated, but it's also not one that, like, for example, when I was reading over today, like the lists and like cultural impact and all that stuff, and like the times it's been ranked in like publications top 100 movies of all time, I'm like, okay, no. But I can understand from like a visual perspective. I guess here's what I'm trying to get at. My appreciation of this movie does not hinge on the Harrison Ford performance, but if that's a make or break deal for you, I'm not necessarily going to argue with that. So yes, I am comfortably sitting on the fence right now.
Can I ask you, is this a film where you would say, or how do you feel about the statement of, is this film style over substance?
It looks so great, and that would be like my main thing to talk about, of like how awesome it fucking looks, and like the presentation's just so mind-blowing. And I guess maybe I would probably side a little bit closer to that, because the Rutger Hauer monologue is amazing, and I don't believe that the people who made this film, also important to call out right now, this was based on
Philip K. Dick.
Yes, Philip K. Dick, a novel, the Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. So I don't know if Philip K. Dick, Peoples, Ridley Scott could have seen that this movie would hold relevance over 40 years after it was released. And watching it today, obviously I put some of my own shit into it of like, oh yeah, AI, all this shit. But I think there might be some merit to the idea that it does look great. It poses these interesting questions, but then when it comes down to like the relationships between the characters in the movie, it's pretty cut and dry. And we just luck out with the big Rutger Hauer monologue at the end. Again, I think this movie is quite good, but I think just listening to the three of y'all talk about it, I think there's a lot of merit to everything y'all have said. And this is not a movie that I would decry to be one of my all-time favorites, or like, you know, in some ranking of the best in its field.
I think it's a film that you do need to see to appreciate, but it's not one. I'm not one of those people who is like, well, how can you not like it? It's just like, how can you? My question is, if anything, how can you not get something out of watching this? Somebody who walks away from Blade Runner having no opinion on it, or no introspection, or no reflections on humanity, or on the sort of evergreen prescience of good sci-fi, that I have a problem with.
I know, and I bring up that style and substance thing. I always have a problem with that type of question, because to my eye, this is a case of the style is the substance as well. A lot of the meanings and a lot of the world building and metaphors and, you know, the things that we really sink our teeth into are shown to us in visual ways, are shown or implied to us. The amount of Asian culture that is woven through the film, and how that then informs so many things, or all of these little hints of things to come, or what these things could mean, or, you know, even making fun of like Tyrell has big glasses because he's short-sighted. Like, there's a lot of that. I guess
he's Batty because he's Batty.
Yeah, he's Roy Batty because he's crazy. But like, I do have an issue with movies, especially science fiction movies. They can be very guilty of this, but movies in general where the characters are just little dolls to fill out the nice visual feast that we've got in front of you. The characters stuff isn't as important to this. It's like what I have a problem with, say, like, you know, with sci-fi genres, like they're so about the world and the ideas. But then what about the people that make up that world, the people that make up those ideas? What are they like? Do I care about them? And there's only one or two people in this movie that I care about. And it's like Roy Batty, who we're obscured from for a good portion of the film. And I also like Sebastian. I feel sorry for him. He's like the most likable person.
He runs away after he's witnessed that murder. I feel for him. My heart breaks for him.
And they just say in a very awkward, bad 80-yard line from the news broadcast that also his body was found too. He died. It just feels like we cut away awkwardly, and it's like, hey, he dead.
But it adds to the cruelty of what happens to that character, you know. So I was gonna bring it up in Controller's Corner as negative. I was like, man, they show you how everybody gets killed and not him, but it actually seems to fit with, you know, how the movie treats him. You know, he's just an innocent in a lion's den.
This is my savior, J.F. Sebastian.
Sebastian. I like a man that stays put.
I have this, as we were talking, it really hit me that the thing that I feel about Blade Runner, because we're talking about Ford's performance and you know, the perfect imperfections, or the perfection in the imperfection, all that stuff. Like, after watching Blade Runner so many times, and I would have told you style over substance the first time I watched it, maybe even the first 2 or 3 times that I watched it. And the more I watched it, I think the more, you talk to people about it, you read about it, you think about it, and then you start absorbing other things, coming up with other ideas and appreciating small details. But the main thing whenever I think of Blade Runner is just like, it's a vibe. And so the vibe is everything the way it is there. So it's like, it's the Ford performance, it's the production design, the way that LA looks, and the rain and the smoke and the monologue at the end. And you're right, Rachel, like there is a way of judging the movie and saying like, man, they were just winging it, right? Like if the most memorable moment in the movie is something that was just improvised by the actor, what does that say about the creative process and the work that went into it? But in a way,
it's collaborative too.
Exactly.
Is also something to say.
They had to create the environment to where Rutger Hauer felt comfortable or felt inspired to come up with that. So, you can also say you judge the final product, and the final product has that, whether it was written or improvised, and it's there. And so that's part of the vibe. And so when I think of Blade Runner, I even think of, the awkward seduction, if you want to be generous, of Harrison Ford and Rachel. And so it's one of the things where maybe I've watched it so much and I've absorbed it so much that it's at a point where I just wouldn't want to change anything, and that leads to me being very charitable, you could say, with its failings or the things that are not quite right. This
is a film I come back to often because I do see new things in it, but I'm always wanting to love it. Like, I've always wanting to be like, okay, this is a thing, but the things that are holding me back don't change.
I've accepted that I will never love Blade Runner, but I will continue to rewatch Blade Runner.
Y'all are describing my future relationship with one battle after another.
I want to ask this because this is the big thing we haven't even talked about.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about.
The Deckard being a replicant thing. And before we get into all the behind the scenes of that and why that's there and how it came to be and how Harrison Ford doesn't believe it and the writers didn't really know who wrote that idea and all that. What I have a problem with Blade Runner in terms of people's reactions to it is, and this is me personally, I don't know if you guys feel this way about movies, but I get so dismayed when a movie is boiled down to a question at the end. Like Inception, that movie now is just like, what do you think the top is still spinning or is it falling over? Is it real? Is it real? Than anything else. Or I can go on with a whole bunch of movies like that. And Blade Runner, unfortunately, is that for me, where it's like, is Deckard a replicant? Is he not? And I just find that way of treating movies and art to be so narrow, to be so small, because it's one aspect of the film that you can latch onto, but I just find like the way of I just
don't find that interesting in the same way.
Yeah, I just don't find that interesting. And again, when I think about like, is Deckard a replicant? I don't care is often my response. And it's like, I care about all the other stuff in the movie, but it's like,
for better or worse, how you interpret anything in the movie, that idea makes a lot of things far less interesting.
I mean, I think that should be the question, right? Like, or the reason that there's a question is, how does it affect the story? And it's funny, I was talking about this with our friend and editor Corey, because he was telling me I prefer it if he is a replicant, and I was telling him I think it's more interesting if he's not a replicant, right? And you can basically interpret several moments in the movie one way or the other, whether he's a replicant or not. And I think you can see how that could influence how you read the movie. Even something as pivotal as, does Roy save his life because he recognizes a fellow replicant, or does he save his life because he's human and he decides to do that as his last act, saving a human? That is.
By the way, I love how you framed that, because that second option, you talked about it a little bit more and made it sound more appealing than the first option. Like, the first option you presented was like very short and sweet, and that one there was like almost like this like lyrical quality in your voice of just like, you're getting me excited about that being the option.
Well, that's the one I like, because it's a lot less cut and dry.
That's exactly it though. Like
but it was telling from the way you told it.
Yeah.
Well, because if he saved him because he's a replicant, that's just too easy, right? Like, I get it, it makes sense, but I think that the character is a lot more complex, Roy Batty, if he decided that the last thing he was going to do before he died was save this human that had killed his friends and that he actually had been chasing, So I prefer it.
I just always come back to, what does it change about Deckard that he is a replicant, other than it's ironic that he is hunting his own and that he is a replicant? Like, other than that, what does it change on him as a character? Other than like film bro in a dorm room smoking a joint being like, oh man, that's pretty wicked. He's a replicant, dude. Like, other than that, like, level of it, what does it change him as a character?
Well, does he know that he's a replicant at the end? Or if he is a replicant, does he know? Is he aware of it at the end?
If you interpret that he is a replicant, I think that's the interpretation you could also walk away with, because of the unicorn.
So he sees the unicorn and he puts it together.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what I think that's all about. Yeah.
But then you can say,
but what does it change?
I mean, it changes him, right? Like, we don't get to see how because the movie ends.
No, I'm talking about like in retrospect. Like when you go through the movie now saying, oh, he's a replicant. What does it change for you other than, oh, it's ironic?
With he's a replicant in mind, what does that change?
Right.
And does it make him a better character?
I think it makes the story sadder. Not him as a character, but just it's even more twisted that this system is set up to have replicants hunt other replicants, right? So if you want to add another layer of nastiness to what's going on in the...
Again, world building rather than character.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Twists like this can always be make or break as well. And like, my rule of thumb is the character still needs to be more interesting than the question or the recontextualization of them afterwards. Bruce Willis, his character in The Sixth Sense is interesting the first time you watch it and the second time you watch it. Despite whatever the twist is, and I know it's one of the most well-known things, but, I'll dance around it for people. But, like, if you know, whatever. But, like, he's still a good character at the end of the day, and it's still a good performance. But with Deckard, it's like, okay, if he's a replicant, what does that make you think about him? And it's like, I don't really think it does much. But also, like, if he isn't a replicant, then also, like, I would have loved a bit more of a defined character journey of him discovering that he is a monster too, actually, and that he's doing wrong. Instead, he just kind of does the thing, and then he gets the big Captain Kirk lecture at the end, and then that changes him.
Alex, how do you feel about this? Is he a replicant? Is he not a replicant? Do you have a preference?
And how do you feel about that discussion point in general?
Oh, this is perfect, because I can quote Harrison Ford himself when asked on a press junket, did Greedo shoot first? I don't care.
Did you shoot Greedo first, or did Greedo shoot you first?
I don't care.
Yeah, my immediate retort would be what I said. It makes the movie less interesting to me if he is a replicant, but the greater thing would be I don't care. I'm just like, if someone, that is one of those film things that if someone tried to like approach me and talk to me about, I would be like, I would do everything I could to get through the conversation as quick as possible and just be like,
why
yeah,
don't
sure,
you care,
whatever.
though?
I guess because this is an unpopular opinion. Like, this isn't a movie I really want to think that deeply about, which I know it's supposed to be. Like a movie that you really like. You brought up Inception earlier, Ryan. I'd rather spend more time trying to dissect that movie than this. And I have.
But that movie's designed to want to be dissected. Is this one supposed to be, or did Ridley in editing force it to be that way? Because he inserts shots from Legend as the unicorn things. Like, this is all made up in editing. Like, Harrison Ford, this wasn't his way of playing it. The writers, they didn't know what the fuck was going on with this. Like, this is in post forced to be
magic.
this way. Like,
Yes,
Inception is designed to be, pulled apart in a way. Well, was that the intention? No, but then in post, it is made that way. So now we live with it.
Well, and I would say that he didn't help by doing that. At the same time, my favorite movie of all time is Halloween, and I can tell you categorically that movie, people have forced their own opinions into it that John Carpenter has repeatedly dispelled and said people put too much thought into it. I will say there's credit to what you're saying, Ryan, of Ridley kind of signed up for some of this with making these very strange artistic decisions. But I think in the 45 years since this movie came out, a lot of people have projected onto it what they want it to be. And that is not the fault of the movie. But again, to your point, there are some editing decisions in the final cut.
That's the director's cut and final cut. This whole replicant question comes from those. It wasn't in the theatrical.
But they were still like wondering back in the theatrical, right? Like, was that something?
No.
So he opened the can of worms later edits.
Yeah, that's with all the unicorn stuff. That's all because the unicorn stuff's the only reason that you even have any questions about him being a replicant or not.
But only because you have those shots of the unicorns.
Think about it. Is there any other motifs in the film that make you question him?
No motifs. The question of have you administered the test on yourself is the closest we get.
Yeah, and even then, that's one line. While the unicorn thing happens a few times. And then you have the origami unicorn at the end. But like, and again, each origami thing means something. Like, he makes a little rooster because Deckard's acting like a cock during a scene. You know, like each origami thing means something. So like, in the theatrical cut, which, is its own beast, but like, yeah, the whole Deckard is he a replicant thing, I think comes up because of the director's cut, where Ridley came back in and tinkers with it. Because he had this idea of like, oh man, wouldn't it be cool if he was a replicant?
How would anyone have known what was inside his head, other than someone who knew what was in his file that had been implanted in his brain? Can't be any clearer than that. If you don't get it, you're a moron.
All right. This did not disappoint. I think there's a lot of talking points in this that we could go ad nauseum about. This is a movie that exists for this type of discussion where you have to go through it analytically and like determine what you can say is bad about it and then come back around and see if you still enjoy it, which I did. Rachel, I'll start with you here as we move into our closing thoughts and scores. I feel as though some of the most interesting points of this discussion, no offense to the fellas here, but what you've said has made me go, huh? So what is your closing score, however you want to give this, and your closing thoughts on Blade Runner, for now at least, because this is a topic that'll never truly be closed.
No, it's one that you do go back to. I think even if you watch it once, there's visuals that you think about or references in other things that you see. Like, it may not be referenced a lot in The Simpsons, but it does get acknowledged or like reincorporated, referenced in so many other things, particularly in sci-fi, but beyond it as well. And it's not a film that I resent for making it hard for me to enjoy it. Because I'm like, that for me is not the point of Blade Runner. I don't watch it to enjoy it. I watch it to appreciate it. And I feel like I need to stick with our rating system of yum is bad, yum yum is good. And say that a Blade Runner is a yum yum. Like, as many problems as I have with it, as frustrating as it is, there's so much to it, even though I don't believe it is the perfection that other people believe it to be.
Well, we move along to the yin to the yang of the yum yum. Ryan?
Wow. Blade Runner has always been a complicated beast for me. And there are other films within this franchise that I love. Soldier is a side sequel written by one of the writers and takes place in the same universe. Blade Runner 2049. Heck, we're going to have a Blade Runner TV show with Michelle Yeoh coming out later this year. Isn't it crazy to think about that Blade Runner is a franchise? Isn't that crazy to think about?
Not in 2025. They're just grabbing whatever IP is available.
Yeah, I know. Which IP will be next, Julio? You decide. But, and you're the problem because you like the MCU, so you're the problem. But, look, Blade Runner, I appreciate, yes, as mentioned. I think I like looking at it in terms of trying to figure out how they cobbled it together, because that's the thing that I like about the movie
You
is
like dissecting it.
the problems behind, like all of the stuff going on behind the scenes, and like this actor's putting in this amount of effort and this one doesn't believe in this thing, and Ridley Scott's going against what this person believes, and all of it kind of coalesced into this visually stunning but thematically and tonally
Messy?
muddled, messy situation. And so I do give it a yum. And I will say, like, a lot of the problems I have with this movie aren't unique. Like, diehard Blade Runner fans also recognize these things. And I put this out there to all of the people listening right now, and I want a genuine response. Is there anyone who likes the romance in this movie properly? Like, actually walks away going, I like the romance between Deckard and Rachel. Because I've never met a Blade Runner fan who agrees that, oh, that's good. I like that. That actually
feels authentic.
That's really good. I've never met anyone.
If that's the case, who hurt you?
And why do you not realize that they hurt you?
This is just like me and the one girlfriend I had 30 years ago. Julio, I'll save you for last because I think you're the highest of the four of us on this, and I'll just say that this conversation is fascinating. I just made a bit of a joke earlier, but it's true. This is a movie that I could see myself getting very exhausted very quickly with the wrong crowd. Not to say there's necessarily a wrong crowd, but just the way I want to talk about movies with people. But I do enjoy it for what it is. I think it's visually just startling in a sense, and I know the visuals have never been talked about in this movie, but I enjoy it. I think it's easy to find some holes as we have in it, but there's a lot of things here that I feel like this movie was like, it feels in certain parts that we accidentally stumbled into gold, and that would sound almost insulting that a movie succeeded despite itself or something like that. But I think there's parts of this that there was no way of putting on paper or knowing how good certain scenes and aspects would turn out the way they did. I think it's also a movie, clearly, because I've said this 3 or 4 times now, that in the time since it's been released, a lot of people have projected onto it what they want it to be. And now that has just become accepted narrative, which I kind of resent. But for what it is, 2 hours sitting in front of a screen watching it, I enjoy it. I give this movie a B+, probably 4-star range, if we're going on a 5-star scale. So that's my thoughts. Julio, take us home.
B for bueno, Alex?
Why not?
At some point, this became a 5-star movie, probably like 2 watches ago or so. And that was even before I had Roy Batty really hit me in the feels. I like that Ryan called it either perfectly imperfect or imperfectly perfect, whatever it is, that describes it, and like I said, it's just the vibe and the imperfections. I'm at the point now that when I watch Blade Runner, I just kind of let it wash over me with all the good and the bad, and it's just, in that sense, it's a perfect experience. And the idea of changing anything, like I said, maybe that's one of the reasons why I reacted so negatively to the sequel, because the sequel felt a lot like, okay, we're gonna take this thing that against all odds is working, and we're gonna put some more stuff on it. And then it was just like, it just wasn't Blade Runner anymore, which, fair, it's Blade Runner 2049, but it just had this bad reaction towards it. So it's still 5 stars. It's great, even though it's not a movie that provokes the kind of strong emotional reaction that other favorite movies of mine do, but there is some emotion towards the end there. And really, I know we've spent a lot of time talking about other things and not so much about the aesthetics of it, but really when you just kind of like sit back and watch what he did, what the team did, not just Scott, but his production designer and the people behind the special effects and all stuff, like what they managed to do back in the 80s, and it still looks amazing today. I mean, that is it's pretty breathtaking. And today, I mean, I was kind of resenting a little bit the fact that I was having to like take notes and think of funny things to say and so as I was watching it, because I really just wanted to sit back and watch the movie. So it's great. To anybody who hasn't fallen under its spell, who kind of like listened to us talk about it for like 2 hours and they're like, I don't get it, I would say give it another shot. Just watch it at least one more time because it took me several times. Like the first time.
And it really does change.
Yep, it does.
When you rewatch it. Even if you've watched it twice, the third viewing can be really different.
Pull back. Wait a minute. Go right. Stop. Enhance 5719.
All right. Well, overwhelmingly positive reviews, scores. Just Ridley Scott can't complain. We gave him a fair shake and then we ended up on the positive. And now we have reached the point where it's time for Ryan and Rachel to pimp their show. Guys, you're past Star Trek. You're past Babylon 5. You're even past The Expanse.
Yeah, we went past The Expanse, which is, that's impressive because it's an expanse. There's never ending, but we did it. We managed to go past the concept of The Expanse, but also the show. We are reading through The Expanse books and talking about them, so there's still more of it. We're up to the second last book currently, so that's exciting.
But we haven't done any of the novellas yet.
Yeah, there's novellas, there's so much content, because if you're a lover of science fiction, there's so much to science fiction properties. There's always more. Like I said a moment ago, Blade Runner isn't just a film, it's a franchise, baby. And oh boy, we are talking about right now the Sci-Fi Channel series Killjoys, which is now 10 years old. It's a show about a ragtag group of bounty hunters who are stumbling their way across an intergalactic conspiracy of some sort. And there's lots of kicking and punching and running and quipping and thoughtful stuff as well. Aaron Ashmore is there. One of Julio's favorite MCU stars, Hannah John Carmen, is there. It's her big break before she got the star in the great film Ant-Man and the Wasp as Ghost. And of course, the smash success film Thunderbolts.
I was about to say, she's relevant
where she
again.
got to play a character who stood there and was in scenes too. But she's the lead of this show and she's fantastic. And Rachel's never seen it before and I've seen it before. So that's the way we're going about this. We can be found on all of those social medias and podcasting sites, Yum Yum Pod or Yum Yum Podcast.
Yum Yum Pod, check it out if you're a sci-fi lover. It's hard to find people more passionate about sci-fi than Ryan and Rachel, I've found.
On the internet, that's a brave thing to say.
Okay, that are also likable and fun to listen to. Anyway, coming up next, we're going to move forward in time, get back to the 2000s, 2017 specifically, a Matt Damon blockbuster, or at least a wannabe blockbuster, The Great Wall.
The would-be blockbuster.
Yeah, would be. A hopeful. 35% on Rotten Tomatoes. Rotten. This comes courtesy of Jordan Mans, but not from his top 100 movies of all time. So mixing it up a little bit. And then on the Patreon feed, our bonus episode for this month is the Western Open Range, courtesy of patron Chas Fisher, Kevin Costner, I think Robert Duvall, bunch of other people that you think of when you think of Westerns. Then 4 quick video reviews. We're going to be doing Coffee Table for you, Alex, and I will be doing K-Pop Demon Hunters. Those are assigned to us by patron Paul, who I know I've seen videos of him singing and dancing on Instagram to the K-Pop Demon Hunters soundtrack. So I know that, and I got that assignment. Coffee Table, I don't know. Good luck. Maybe he's also posting about Coffee Table on Instagram. I just haven't seen it. But we'll find out when we do those reviews individually. And then Contrarians After Hours. You know what? Ryan suggested it, and it sounds like a good idea. On this After Hours, we're going to be talking about Blade Runner 2049. Very appropriate, given the extensive discussion we just had about Blade Runner. Finally, Alex, you get to break open that Blu-ray.
Yes. Looking forward to it.
So that's it. Patreon.com/Contrarian Prime. That's where you find our Patreon channel. Thank you for joining us, Ryan, Rachel. You guys were awesome. So glad that you were here to help us get through Blade Runner. One last time, where do we find you and your show?
Under Yum Yum Podcast, at Yum Yum Pod.
All of those social medias, all of those podcasting sites, you'll find our episodes there. We're chatting away. We're going through stuff as usual, and we'll be happy to see you.
All right, Alex, let's get out of here.
Take care, y'all. Welcome to our end credits.
Or as we usually call them, our perennial plugs.
We start off by giving thanks to the Festive Years who provide our opening and closing tracks. They kick us off with Last Stand and take us home with Summer of 99. Be sure to head over to thefestiveyears.com for any and all Festive Years needs.
Our friend and fellow podcaster Hans Rothgieser is the man behind our logo and all the art you see related to our show. Reach out to him and let him know how much you like that little tomato. His email address is mildemonios@hotmail.com and his website is mildemonios.pe. That's MILDEMONIOS. Hans, thank you for all your support.
For those interested in the regularly absurd world of professional wrestling, Joe and the boys over at latenightgrin.com have you covered. Tell them the Contrarians sent you.
And we like to close with special thanks to our social media team of Zoe Perez and Corey Ari. Each of the social media accounts we mentioned in the introduction look as good as they do because of their work.
So that'll do it for this episode of The Contrarians, where we're right and you're wrong, and we will catch you next time.
Just for old time's sake, I really don't care who you see.